Art Loft is brought to you by
Where there is freedom, there is expression. The Florida Keys and Key West.
the Miami-Dade County Tourist Development Council, the Miami-Dade County Department of Cultural Affairs, and the Cultural Affairs Council, the Miami-Dade County Mayor, and the Board of County Commissioners, and the Friends of South Florida PBS.
Art Loft. It's the pulse of what's happening in our own backyard, as well as a taste of the arts across the United States. In this episode, Mixing Mediums. From the art of welding.
People think, oh, well, if it's functional, it's not art, but I really think it is.
To ceramics that encourage conversation.
Ceramic as a material is very unforgiving.
To a transformative art collective and multiple disciplines in between.
It was this conceptual idea that has transformed into what many consider to be one of the greatest social sculptures in the world.
I'm Cindy Nguyen. I've been making furniture for the last 30 years. I build furniture out of scrap metal. I have probably about 200 to 250,000 pounds of scrap metal. My welding studio, and I have an idea, or the scrap metal gives me an idea, and I go out and I start collecting parts, and I keep at it until I have the whole design. Usually I design about 10 to 12 pieces at once, so there's pieces and parts everywhere that have a future as furniture, either lamps, tables, or chairs is usually what I make. Furniture can be art. It's not, you know, the functionality, people think, oh, well, if it's functional, it's not art, but I really think it is, because it changes people. You know, when people, just because you can touch it and sit on it doesn't mean it's not art. I first got started in college. I took all the basic classes, drawing, painting, and then I glommed onto ceramics for about 3 years, which is 6 semesters. At the end of the 6th semester, our ceramics teacher said, you guys get all your stuff out of here. And I thought, well, I'll just take a break and I'll take Sculpture 2, which was welding. I learned how to weld really easily, and I was frustrated because I hadn't made anything creative, so I just made my partner a chair as a joke. And it's like my brain lit on fire. An idea can come from the materials, or it can come from my head, and then I squeeze the materials into my idea, or vice versa. But I study all kinds of furniture, especially 18th century. 18th century furniture has really a lot of amazing details. I use some glass, some wood, but mostly it's all scrap metal. I go out into either, if I'm up north, I go out into a real scrap yard, or if I'm down south here, I go out into my own scrap yard and I look for parts. I do a lot of welding, a lot of cutting with a grinding disc, and a lot of cutting with a torch. And then welding is the most fun step. And then the final step is to put a final coat of lacquer on it and take it down to the gallery. The grinding is still rough, but the cutting, I love cutting, I love welding, I love putting stuff together, I love the hot metal. Even when it burns me, I don't mind, you know. I feel happy. I'm working on a number of projects. What I'm going to show you today is the end of it's a series called Wrench Chair, and I've learned a new thing about spring steel. You can't really weld it, so I catch it in a little cage, so that's the final step on this wrench chair. So it'll still have movement with the spring, but it won't be in danger of breaking. My most recent commission, I did the headboard on commission. I have 4 panels to carve. The headboard's all complete except putting it together and carving the last 3 out of the 4 wood panels. And for speculative, I usually do pedestals, console tables, end tables, a lot of chairs. Chairs are my favorite, because chairs are really where I think the art is in my work. Because I make them so that people are very trepidatious when they see them, And then when they sit down, I can see for an instant, everything kind of evaporates and they're back into a childlike state and they start laughing because it moves and it's comfortable and it's usually down here it's hot and the chair's cool. I just like that moment when it changes their perception of what furniture is about. You know, it makes them feel differently about furniture, and the way people interact with furniture changes when they see my stuff.
Check out Cindy Wynn's pieces in intricate detail on our website, IamFurniture.com. Houston Public Media takes us to a collective 25 years in the making, where contemporary art extends from the studio into a social context.
"25 years ago, you couldn't even walk down this street if you didn't live in the neighborhood without some threat of physical violence. It was considered one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the city of Houston. What the city saw as poverty, blight, crime, and all of the social ills that come along with that, the artists saw as an opportunity to showcase their work and use their work in a way to enrich the community. Project Art House is a 25-year-old arts and culture organization based in Houston's Northern 3rd Ward. We're located approximately 3 blocks from Emancipation Park, a 10-acre park bought by freed slaves to celebrate their freedom. We walk on the grounds of freed slaves here every day, and that's not lost on us. When our most well-known founder, Rick Lowe, stumbled upon these houses and he discovered this site, he saw it and the other founders saw it as this unique opportunity, right? So they were able to acquire what was 22 shotgun-style row houses. They were able to acquire this site and really work with the community, renovate, and bring some life back into these houses. And that is how the concept of Project Row Houses started. We foster the creation and exhibition of art in several ways. One's through our artist rounds that we have in the fall and the spring of each year. And what the rounds do is they address, whether it's a social, political, economic, whatever issue, it's curated to address a theme or issue that's happening in the neighborhood. We had a couple of rounds ago, Black women artists for Black Lives Matter. A round before that dealt with the fact that art could be used as a way to address prison reform. But most importantly, we use the resources that we have to ensure that the history and culture of this community is not erased. We were one of the first organizations to look at holistically, what can we do to use our resources to enrich the community? Not just beautify the space, but actually bring some much needed services to bring affordable housing into the community. It's a place for young mothers to provide a sustainable, supportive living environment for themselves and their children so they can reach their professional and personal goals. Project Row Houses has been a leader in changing the perceptions of what art is and what it can do in terms of not only community development, historic and cultural preservation, empowering people to see themselves in a different way. We get people from all over the country that come in and just want to sit and learn. And this is not some cookie cutter, here's a toolkit, go take this and into your community, but really explaining to them what it has taken over the 25 years for us to get here. Now it's an institution. It is deeply rooted. It's not just in 3rd Ward, it is of the 3rd Ward. It was this conceptual idea that has transformed into what many consider to be one of the greatest social sculptures in the world. And it just came out of this idea that art could transform and enrich a community.
We've been on the planet for a very short amount of time, but we've had a dramatic impact on the ecosystem. A lot of my work revolves around themes of coral reef bleaching. And so for me, as a humanity, if we can come together and save the coral reef, I think we can have a greater impact in how we interact with each other. I use objects from the ocean and the coral reef because I'm attracted to the visceral quality. The forms are organic, and it shows how nature is an art form within itself. I think being Haitian American, voodoo plays an integral part into my work. When I think of the ceremonies that take place in voodoo, many of those ceremonies connect back to the earth. Since I use clay as a medium in my work, I see a connection between voodoo and earth and ceramic and clay. I go into each neighborhood in South Florida and I gather a variety of flora and fauna from each neighborhood. I then bring them back into the studio and I scan them through a process of silk screening, and then they become part of the artwork. So for me, when I think of flora, fauna, leaf, rocks, plant, there are these different systems that connect, and we're part of that connection. Ceramic has this incredible visceral and tactile experience. It's a medium that always changes, always transforms, and adapt. Ceramic as a material is very unforgiving. Whenever you pour that liquid into the vessel, it captures every imperfection, and so you can't hide from that. I want them to be inspired to see a little piece of nature that I see in the environment, and that resonates back in them. The fragility of ceramic, actually, for me, it parallels the experience of being a Black male here in the US. Those brown figures came from a very interesting study that was done on the color brown. They had a group of about 500 people. Each one was given a box of crayon, and they were all told to pick their favorite color from the box of crayon. In each one of those studies, the color brown was the only color left in the box of crayon. A lot of the work been about the environment, and the figure has been absent from it. I like to go in because there's something vulnerable about the figures that I draw. What I want people to take away in my drawings and painting work is that there's beauty in being Black, you know? The skin, you know, is this badge of courage. It's beautiful and is made to be celebrated. The work is multi-layered. The work may entice you in the very beginning, but the longer you kind of spend time with it, it becomes a double-edged sword.
Visit the artist's exploratory online gallery at morelldoucet.com. Rocky Mountain PBS transports us to a miniature world where an artist uses found objects to present life from a different perspective.
The way people react to my art is different and fun and priceless all at the same time. When they see that the pieces light up, and then it's fun to see their faces light up, and I see their imagination light up, and it's really kind of a fun thing to sit back and watch. It's really such a humbling experience to hear people tell me about how it moves them and the feelings that it invokes in them. There's nothing in the world like it. It feels wonderful. My name is Scott Hildebrandt, and I'm a miniature artist, and I work with repurposing old clocks, cameras, radios, and TVs. I would say over the last 10 years, I've probably built close to about maybe 3,000 pieces, all different shapes and sizes. Nothing is really off limits.
This is actually airplane salvage. So this is an old wheel cover from an old landing gear, an old Cessna 182.
The love of miniatures probably started when I was close to 6 or 7. My grandfather used to put up his old train set from when he was a boy, and I just remember being in awe of how beautiful it was and how it ran and all the little miniatures that went with it, and I was just fascinated with it. And as I got older, I would build models, and I loved the scale of trying to recreate these scenes in miniature format.
Like, this is an old hardback case. There's a little switch on the bottom. It makes them portable so you can put them somewhere, but you can open it up and have a nice little display. So.
Oh my God.
Mr. Christmas is a term or a name that was given to me probably about 10 years ago when I first started doing this.
It's very creative what you've done.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Beautiful work.
I focused on vintage Christmas pieces, and my first piece that I ever made actually was a little Christmas village that was under glass. People took interest in that style of art, and so I just sort of absorbed the name Mr. Christmas. I would describe the personality of my work as more whimsical. I think miniatures in general reminds adults of that same imagination that sometimes you repress and put away. And it brings you back to a really good place in your life that you remember when you were younger. And it's almost like a safe place, and it creates these warm memories that people love.
Where do you source your antiques?
I go to a lot of estate sales and flea markets, garage sales.
A real interesting weekend for me is thrifting. A fun weekend like that will turn into fun weeks of finding these pieces and then getting a chance to build into them.
This poor clock stopped working, the motor burned out, so I'm going to repurpose the face.
I never put people inside of my artwork. I feel like the scene itself creates a wonder or mystery, and I want the focus to be on the quaintness of the scene itself, and that you can imagine yourself maybe there. The thing that really inspires me to continue with my art is the ability to create something that connects people together, and it's also a very endearing challenge to me to be able to create something that I could imagine. There's nothing more satisfying than to be able to complete something that you've thought about. It's just such a form of accomplishment, and it's so satisfying that it kind of makes me feel complete as an artist.
Do you title all your pieces?
I try to.
What would you call it?
A clear sunset. I can't imagine not doing it. It's part of my life, and it's really part of who I am.
This next piece is produced by Institute of Contemporary Art Miami. It captures a durational performance featuring a wearable woven sculpture and an exploration of Navajo philosophy.
There's a word in Navajo, washdan, which means come in. So you want to share the knowledge, and I think that's vital to my practice. I see my work as living things, I see my work as having a mortality, and I see my work as having a death, just as all living things do. And so I guess I've realized my own mortality in a lot of ways, and knowing that my body can decompose. And so when I die, I'm not going to be gifted or sold for anybody else. So when the work dies, it's not going to be sold. It's going to decompose within the earth or within the air. I don't think I'll ever sell anything because I don't want other people to have it. It's mine. I made it. My son's name is Halot. That's a Navajo verb. Halot means I have.
Are we ready, guys? Got everything? You excited? I wish the wind was a little more chill. Maybe when we get into the mountain a little bit, it'll calm down.
Being carried is like one of the most intimate things that can happen to a person. Having this figure and my son existing on my back, it was important for me to put that weight on my body. I'm carrying them physically up the mountain and up this peak for my land, but they're carrying me in terms of my ideas and my love and my life. So we are carrying each other up the entire mountain. I'm never gonna have that fascination of giving birth physically within my body as a male body. So it was something that I wanted to do from my mind. My mind can give birth to ideas. My mind can give birth to stories. My mind can give birth to a craft or these fibers that I think of. So I wanted that birth to be the physical manifestation of a child.
We can do lion's breath.
Do lion's breath.
When we climbed it together as a family, it was kind of like this moment of like beauty within each other. I've done it a few times, but it was something they'd never done.
We did it!
Good job.
Having this moment of like, this is where we are, this is where we're from, this is the land that like birthed us, and this is the land that I like share beauty with, and that gifted me my worldview.
Did you have fun?
I had a blast.
Not gonna go back down.
More of the artist's performance work can be found online.
It's infinite in its possibilities. You can have a project going really great and it might catastrophically break, crack, fall on the floor right in your kind of final maneuvers. My name is Donald McMullen. I'm a borosilicate lamp worker or a glass blower here at the Art Studio in Marathon, Florida. I've been doing it since college and it's by far my favorite art medium I've ever tried, hence why I've stuck with it. It's been fun to work with the art medium when the medium really pushes back. I definitely like playing with fire. I'm a bit of a pyro. My brother builds rocket ships and my dad burns down brush piles on the farm, so it's in my blood like that. But glassblowing has really held the interest because it's such a unique art form in that you never physically touch the art form while you're making it. It's too hot. I'm manipulating, of course, with tools and things like that. You can go in one direction your whole career. You can dabble in a lot of different areas. And I've really just started to scratch the surface with glass blowing. Marbles are some of my favorite things to create. I generally do a neat sort of vortex marble, which has a really nice depth perception in it. You can get some great colors, a lot of movement, and it gives me a chance to sort of demonstrate a few different techniques for you. It's something that I've just had a lot of fun learning how to do and how to make. And like with any art form, it's sort of infinite to get towards perfection, but it's really been fun working to get rounder and rounder marbles, bigger marbles, playing more with the optics, and it's just like a little world in your hand. You can really manipulate it in a lot of very interesting ways, and so I think that form has really held my focus for a long time.
Take a class with Donald McMullen. The Art Studio in Marathon offers art classes and workshops taught by their resident artist staff. Learn more at keysartstudio.com. Continue the conversation online. Art Loft is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ArtLoftSFL. Find full episodes and segments on a brand new website, artloftsfl.org, and on YouTube at South Florida PBS.
Art Loft is brought to you by
Where there is freedom, there is expression. The Florida Keys and Key West.
the Miami-Dade County Tourist Development Council, the Miami-Dade County Department of Cultural Affairs, and the Cultural Affairs Council, the Miami-Dade County Mayor, and the Board of County Commissioners, and the Friends of South Florida PBS.